We will start soon a program for 3 years where we will be working with 3 components. The first is to have a bigger group of women with mediation and negotiation capacities. So it will never be said again what I heard when I arrived to the UN. We don't have women with those skills. We do have, but we don't want nobody to have that excuse, at least. But it's not only a matter of number. I want to be very honest with you, because to be able to sit down and put parties that have been in a war, you have to be somebody who is respected, who have power, you have something to negotiate. So we need to find powerful, strong women, leaders that are respected by the parties. We will be also, because we know this is not that easy, and parties has to agree on who will be the mediator, we will be working with men who are mediators or will be mediators. So they will always have to meet with women at the countries and also have to bring their voices, their concerns, their needs to the peace talks and the negotiation. And third component, we'll be working strengthening at the country level the capacity of women's organizations who have been dealing with this so they have a stronger voice. The fourth area that is not fourth in relevance, because for me probably is one of the most important ones, as the political one, because I also believe that women will never have equal rights if they don't have economic autonomy. So for me, economic empowerment is as important as political empowerment. And UN Women will work with governments, but also with national partners and multilateral partners to ensure the full realization of women's economic security and rights, including access to productive assets and full social protection. And the fifth, if I may say, it's sort of a tool and an area. It's making gender equality priorities central to national, local, and sectorial planning and budgeting. And I would link to this because when we discuss how we have been progressing, one of the problems that we have in many countries and that you don't find data disaggregated by gender. So you don't know exactly how to measure progress. So we'll be also working, building national capacities in terms of statistics that can be disaggregated by gender. But let me be clear, because that doesn't mean, when I focus on these 5 areas, it's because I try to understand which is the essential, which are the areas where UN Women have to lead. There are many other areas that many other agencies are already leading there. So we'll be working with them, but we don't intend to lead. We don't intend to step on no one's toes. We need to build synergies because we have so much work to do. And that's why we will be speaking out or supporting other actors working in critical areas such as reproductive rights, maternal health, environmental sustainability, or promotion of women's rights in response to HIV and AIDS pandemic, or, for example, women who migrate, domestic workers, and so on. But in many of these areas, you have ILO, you have WHO, UNA, AIDS, UNFPA, who are the leading ones, but we'll be building partnership and we'll be working together with them. At the same time, however, we must have certain areas in which UN Women will focus and invest. So these initial 5 priorities have met with a positive response from our UN partners, from the Executive Board, and we note that they are closely aligned to the recent Oxfam Noviv survey on what NGOs hope to see UN Women supporting. But beyond the absolutely critical discussion of what UN Women will focus on, it is essential that we also discuss how UN Women will work and how it strengthens its partnership with and support for women's networks and organizations at all levels. In my travels and meeting to date, I have heard many points reiterated by women's groups. You have told us, open up new and more spaces within the UN and with governments and other partners for us. Or don't compete with us for funding. Yeah. Don't drown us in bureaucracy. Work with government, but appoint staff who are committed to maintaining and expanding ongoing dialogue and partnerships with independent women's organizations. Ensure transparency at all levels and particularly at country level. Have regular dialogue with women's groups of different types, and be sure to reach out beyond capitals to those rural and other areas that are the hardest to reach. I will tell you that one of my nightmares, if I may say, is to think how we reach those women who are the most vulnerable ones, and that usually they're not connected to organizations. They don't have internet. Because if we have funds, we have, two trust funds, Gender Equality Trust Fund and the Trust Fund for Ending Violence Against Women. And everybody can apply to to these trust funds. But probably we're not reaching the people who are in the more difficult conditions. So it will also be very important for us if you can also help us in that area. You have my commitment that I will keep all these things, and probably many more that you will mention, in mind, and try my very best to respond to these calls, because I'm so convinced we must maintain a very open dialogue. Now, let me close by posing some questions for you about areas where we need more of your thinking and insights. First, since the early days of discussions about UN Women, the important link between UN Women and civil society has been stressed. I have to tell you that during the difficult times of the dictatorship in my country, I worked in an NGO, so for many years as a pediatrician attending children who were suffering from violence or their parents were killed or disappeared or in prison. So I really know what it is to be part of an NGO and the difficulties sometimes that it means. In some countries where it seems like a threat to work on these kind of areas. We work with women and children, of course. What channels can we create for women's groups and networks to continue to be a dynamic partner to UN Women in guiding its strategic direction? I have instructed all of the regional heads of regional offices and sub-regional offices and people of the country office that they should organize, call for on the NGOs and essential non-governmental groups in each place to form an advisory group. And I will do my own that will advise me. But I'm very interested to know if you have other or more innovative proposals to make on this issue. Second, the concern expressed by NGOs in the recent Oxfam Novib study about the accessibility of the UN system on the ground and the challenges encountered in partnering with the UN were very interesting for UN Women. How do we manage our partnerships and coordination mandate within the UN so that it leverages and generates maximum benefit for women's rights and gender equality? Third, and finally, I would be very interested in your thinking about the larger question in the effectiveness of implementation, the commitment of the Beijing Platform for Action through the gender mainstreaming strategy. We strengthen ministries of women's affairs to become effective at leveraging policies and programs for other branches of government. But from my own experience, not in my country because women, not in my case because women, of course, was important to me, but in many places, national machinery, gender machineries are the weakest. They are the one who receive the least budget. So we need to strengthen, but we need also to work and convince the Minister of Finance. Women's issue is a cross-cutting issue, and we need to involve everyone there. But, and we also think we need to bridge partnership between Ministers of Women Affairs and parliamentary caucuses, supporting countries to develop national plans of action on gender equality, advocating for gender-responsive budgeting, and incorporating women's priorities in poverty reduction strategies and post-conflict reconstruction plans. That's what we have been doing until now. But is this getting us where we want to go? That's something we would like to hear from you. It is enabling us to reach the women who are, as I mentioned before, the most excluded and hardest to reach. It is enabling us, not just UN Women, but all of us, to respond dynamically and effectively to the opportunities and challenges that are most pressing for promoting and protecting women's rights. It would be wonderful if some of the speakers here today could reflect on some of those questions. Whether these questions or other, let me reiterate that the dialogue must continue. and that a partnership based on mutual recognition and respect between UN Women and organizations and networks like those represented here today is essential to guaranteeing women's rights in all countries. So again, let me thank the organizer once again and wish you all a very fruitful and stimulating day. Thank you very much.